Microsoft Windows is an operating system made by Microsoft's founder, Bill Gates. Over the past 28 years, Windows has gone through many changes, so let's take a look at all of the changes and improvements that Windows has gone through from 1995 to 2023. There are many different releases of Windows, but to keep the video short, we'll only be talking about some of the major versions: Windows 95, Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 10, and Windows 11. This topic interests me a lot because I want to know more about how Windows has changed throughout the years, and I think it's really cool to watch Windows evolve as the time goes on. Some of the changes that have happened are the GUI, the security, and the ease of use. Windows 95 was released in 1995 and resembles what we know as the GUI today. It was the first version of Windows to have a desktop, a taskbar, and a start menu. Windows 95 was also the first version of Windows to have a 32-bit architecture for preemptive multitasking. Windows 95's boot time was increased by making the computer immediately boot into Windows instead of MS-DOS, a text-based command prompt. Windows 95 also has great plug-and-play support, so you would not have to restart your computer every time you installed a device like a mouse or keyboard. One downside of Windows 95 was that it did not natively support USB drives. It would require a special driver to work. Next, we have Windows XP, released in 2001. I could talk about Windows XP all day. It was one of Microsoft's greatest operating systems, and is my second favorite vintage OS. Windows XP had a huge GUI overhaul. It was made to look more user-friendly and made the OS easier to use. Windows XP came in two architectures, 32-bit and 64-bit. 32-bit was more common at the time, but 64-bit was for people who wanted a high quality and performance experience. Windows XP is meant to work great on any type of PC, whether that be desktop, laptop, or tablet PC. Windows XP was also widely known for being great at multimedia, both for creating and viewing. Windows XP came with Media Player 8 and had built-in sound recording and video editing tools. Windows XP also made it so that when you went into a system folder, it would hide the files and tell you that the files are system files and should not be modified. Windows XP also no longer relies on MS-DOS. If you want to use MS-DOS on a Windows XP computer, you need to create a boot floppy disk. Windows XP was also Microsoft's longest supported operating system. It is supported from 2001 to 2014. That's 12 years. Windows 7, which was released in 2009, received another GUI overhaul. It made everything look glassy and transparent. This was called the Arial theme. Unlike Windows XP, Windows 7 has clearer and bolder text, while Windows XP has pixelated, thin text. With Windows 7, the 64-bit architecture became mainstream for most PCs. Windows 7 did unfortunately require more power. Windows 7 also had improvements to security. It is now harder to delete system files with Windows, completely denying modifications to any system files. Not to mention that Windows 7 came with some very fun games pre-installed. Windows 10 was Microsoft's next biggest operating system. The GUI was recreated to look more simple, but it kept somewhat of the transparency effects that Windows 7 had. Windows 10 was way more secure than its predecessors because it has a built-in antivirus in Windows Defender. Windows 10 also created many cool ways to log into your computer. You can use a PIN, a fingerprint, your face, a USB, or even a picture of your choice. Some new features that came with Windows 10 were the replacement of Internet Explorer with Microsoft Edge, Cortana, the virtual assistant, and Xbox Game Bar for video games. Windows 10 was also more internet-based. Windows will now use your Microsoft account as your user account. Windows 10 also got its own App Store, which can be used to download PC-compatible Xbox games, business and productivity tools, and updates for system apps. Windows 10 also introduced a simplified settings menu, making it look like a settings menu that you would see on other devices. The new settings menu makes system management way easier than it has been in the past with the control panel. It is now easier to change your background and theme, change internet connections, manage storage space, and do updates. Windows 11 is the latest Windows OS you can get. Windows 11's GUI went for the curved modern look, now replacing the sharp edges of Windows and other elements with curved edges. The icons were also made to look more colorful and simplistic, with a gradual color change on some new icons. Windows 11 now requires Secure Boot, TPM 2.0, and a supported processor. There are ways around these, but it is not recommended if you have an unsupported processor. Over the past 28 years, Windows has gone through many changes. The GUI, security, and ease of use have improved over time and in releases. Something that I noticed while doing my research is that every release that I talked about was released every 6 years, except for Windows 7. Something that surprised me was that every operating system has its own unique GUI. Windows 95 has a gray and dull GUI. Windows XP has an appealing blue UI. Windows 7 has a glass transparent GUI. Windows 10 has a tablet-looking GUI, and Windows 11 has a curved, appealing GUI. I hope you learned something about Microsoft Windows and its past. It's cool to see how something can change over many years.